is 2026 and you're probably still wholly dependent on the same systems today that you were using a few years ago. I don't know what you're using for your customer profile management today, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is whether it is meeting your organizational needs and making you as efficient as possible in your job. That, and ensuring that you give customers the best possible experience based on their self-validated data and consent, and at the same time, you don't inadvertently jumble their details up with those of other customers. If you want to take your customer master data management to the next level, you need to check this out.
The Pretectum Customer Master Data Management System is a software-as-a-service platform available for organizations of all sizes. To get started, you begin with a schema, a model for how you want to define and store customer master data profiles in the Pretectum platform. You can define a schema using a file, a connection to a system, using AI, or simply by defining the structure manually. Let's start there. As you add definition elements to the schema, you are able to define the critical aspects of each field or attribute. Pretectum provides you with a good deal of flexibility, including specifying minimum and maximum field lengths, whether a field should be mandatory, and even typing the field so that you can benefit from other aspects of the platform's ability to validate special data types. Applying classification tags enables you to make use of advanced functions. These become useful at a later stage in your journey with the data, for everything from searching and record matching to analytics and data enrichment. Now that we have created our schema model, the next thing we will do is add some data. The Pretectum platform allows you to have as many schema models as you need. Each schema is a parent and definition for one or more datasets globally. As many datasets as you need can be added to each schema, giving you a great deal of options for how you want to stage and use your customer data profiles. Once you have defined the container for your dataset, you can start to add data. Data can be added manually, row by row, field by field, or through a file import or a connection to a system. Data can also be replaced or appended depending on the deployment model that you choose for MDM. We'll introduce a few records now, manually. A write panel appears alongside the dataset container, ready to capture your data. As you add records, the configuration drives user application messages and warnings. Although we have defined all three of the fields as mandatory, the application will still allow you to save an incomplete record, but with warnings. The rationale for saving incomplete or invalid records is based on our experience, which shows that data isn't always perfect, and that sometimes partial data still needs to be saved so that it can be attended to later. Every row of data that is added or created is evaluated in real time against your defined data quality criteria for the dataset. Indicators at the row level and within the record itself give you a clear indication of problem areas. A permissions model enables you to assign various roles and permissions to your users, but all users can quickly and easily identify records that are in a good or potentially bad state. Although up until now we have been adding records manually, at any stage you can switch to a bulk upload that could overwrite or append records to the dataset. Bulk uploads could come from files or data connections. We have access to a Postgres database and will connect to that and load data from there. Once you're connected to the source system, whether it be Postgres, Salesforce, Snowflake, or something similar, the next step is choosing a source table or structure. After you have selected the source, you'll be shown the attributes or fields in that source, and it is now as simple as mapping the fields between that source and your dataset target. Just a few clicks later, and you're loading data from your source into the Pretectum platform. There's no waiting around for the load to complete. You can get on with other tasks while the data is loaded asynchronously and in the background. At any point in time, you can check on the status of your data load with second-by-second updates visible until the job completes. This was a small data load, as you can see, but let's go and see what the quality of the dataset looks like, and also take a look at the profiling statistics. Data quality assessment is continuous. Every time data is loaded or changed, data quality statistics are updated. Indicators tell you which attributes have problems and the extent of the problems. Data profiling is interesting the first time you load data, or perhaps periodically when you're trying to understand the character of a dataset. Because a dataset could be very large, data profiling is not automatic, but instead is executed on demand. We've triggered a data profiling job and come back to the profiling stats to see what they reveal. We can see aspects of the data like frequency of values, the presence of nulls, and dominant data types. These characteristics may all prove useful in defining additional data validation rules that we might want to incorporate into the schema. You might have noticed in the profiling stats that a certain email address appeared multiple times in the dataset. Pretectum natively supports matching based on tagged columns and common values. So let's go and search for duplicates using the email address as the search criteria. Setting up and running the duplicate search is quick and easy, and the end result is a collection of clustered records that can be worked on further. With the duplicate search job completed, we can now take a look at the results. In this dataset, we can see that there was only one cluster of 3 records with a common email address. At this point, we have several options available to us. We could make a particular record more complete or consistent by nominating it as a surviving record and merging attributes from the related records, or we could simply remove the duplicated records. Since parts of this data came from outside of the system, we might choose to correct at the source and resynchronize the data. Or we may choose to correct the data here and push it back to the sources. The decision you make all depends on the way MDM works in your organization context. The Pretectum Customer MDM will support all of the most popular methods, including consolidation, registry, coexistence, and centralized. With our survivorship and merge criteria set, merging or deletion is just a few mouse clicks away. The handy feature of a preview will even tell us what our survivor record will look like after the merge. We're in the last minute or so of this showcase, so we'll just touch on the last important feature of this very basic demo. We'll quickly show you some of the power search options that are available within the dataset and the trio of options available under Search. An elastic search capability within the platform enables you to search with confined scopes or across the entire platform landscape. Your searches can be based on the strictest of search criteria, based on field names or tags. Tags are useful since tags may be applied to fields and datasets that have different names. Using natural language, you can construct a humanly understandable search. You can also use simple strings as criteria, or you can use the structured query builder. The natural language search uses AI to assist in the query construction, and the successful return of results will depend on how elaborate the question is that you ask. Hopefully, you now have a good feel for what you can do to get started on the journey of consolidating your customer data from multiple sources, improving the data quality and deduplication. To learn more, visit www.pretectum.com.